everyone, and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, March 12th, 2021, and this is episode 174. I'm Carol. I can be found on Ravelry as Knits and Pearls, and I am coming to you from the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, just a little ways east of Vancouver. Hope you've all had a good week. Mine's been more or less uneventful, except for some very exciting news yesterday, which I will share with you at the end of the episode. I think it's going to be a bit of a short one today, partly because I only have 3 projects to talk about, and partly because it's like lunchtime and I'm hungry. And I thought if I record before I have lunch, then maybe I will stick with it and get through this more quickly than I usually do. And then that way also, with any luck, I should have everything edited and uploaded and show notes done by the time Cameron gets home from work. If you've been watching, you know that I've been trying to aim for an earlier in the week schedule, and I did consider putting off recording until next week. But I have a finished project that I really am excited. That word has come up a couple times now in just a few minutes. I am very happy and excited to show you my finished project. And other than that, I just have a couple of things that I've been working on. So without further ado, let's get into it. And then having said that, I remembered that I just want to remind people that if you took part in the Making Time for Me craft along, you might want to watch last week's episode to see if you are one of the winners. I did announce them then, and I've heard from a couple, but I still have 2 that I have yet to hear from. All right, ready? Well, of course, if you've seen the photo, screenshot for this week's episode, you will have already seen this, but I finished the wedding shawl for my daughter-in-law to be. This is the Affinity Lace Shawl by Haley Sang Sather, and I knit it in Ornagi Filates Merino Doro in the color 20, which is, they call it white, but it's really an off-white. So I am going to just hold it up over my face because it's much prettier than I am, so that you can get a really good look at it. Isn't it lovely? Once again, I fear that the camera is probably not picking up the bead work. I don't know why that is, because certainly in real life, the beads pick up the light like all the time. So let's see if I can bring it in. Oh, you can see some beads there. There's the center motif. I purposely put on a black t-shirt so that it would hopefully show up all the details really well. Here, I'm going to do this so that comes up. Oops, there we go. Hopefully you can see the beads in there. Went to a lot of work to put them in for them not to show up. Anyway, I am happy as can be. It's nice and light, although with the beads it does give it some weight, which will be nice if it's a little bit breezy out. And I think it'll also, the weight will help it sit nicely on Stephanie's shoulders. I don't even know for sure if it'll get worn. It'll depend how warm or cool it is at the end of April, which is when they were getting married, but it is an outdoor wedding, so hopefully, at least in a picture or something, that she'll put it on if she doesn't end up wearing it. So very happy to be finished with that. I'm just going to carefully drape it over here. I can't wait for her to see it in person. Sent her a couple pictures. Yeah, so that's what I've mainly been concentrating on during the day and during the past week. And then at night, most nights we've been watching curling, and I've just been knitting on socks because they're easy to work on while watching TV. And I figured if I got the wedding shawl out of the way, then I could turn my focus to my wedding cardigan. So I have no progress at all on my um, Love's Promise cardigan to show you this week. But I have lots of progress on socks. So I'm just looking this way because I'm like, which pair should I talk about first? I think these are ones you've seen before, so I'll start with those. These are pair of socks knit from Fibronymous Dyeworks. The bronzed sparkle base, and the color is Leaf Pile. Oh, there's the furnace coming on, of course. And I think when I showed them to you last week, I basically had one striping repeat done. Sorry, they're all twisted here. So I've made quite a bit of progress since then, as you can see. Let's see if I can tuck these needle points out of the way. So yeah, they have heels. The color's not really showing up as well as I would like, but reds are always tricky on film. It's not too bad. So it's a 5-color repeat, and then I had intended originally to use a gold colored yarn mini from Fibronymous Dyeworks for the heel. But as I was knitting them, I realized the gold wasn't quite as similar as I had first thought it was. And this red is very similar to this one. I think they are the same dye. And so I decided to go with red. And I also like it because there's a lot of red in the sock, and I like how it kind of just ties in with it. So I doing top-down socks, 2mm needles, so 2x2 rib, cuff, stockinette, as you can see, and then I split in between these two colors to add this short row heel. And as you can see, I put the heel in and I've done one stripe, and I'm at the same point on both socks because, as you can see, I am knitting them concurrently. So I basically will knit 1 or 2 stripes on this one, go back to this one. And I did heel here, did the heel here, and I'll kind of just work my way down. I like to do that often for self-striping socks, partly because you make sure they're kind of the same, but also it's just a nice thing when you get to the end, you have a pair. So no second sock syndrome to weigh you down as it sometimes does. So yeah, really happy with those. I am knitting these in part for Fibronymous Dyeworks Nature Mal or Make Along. For details on that, you can look at last week's show notes. And I don't usually refer to where you can find show notes because that's why I do a little blurb, little intro with all my contact info at the beginning of each episode, so I don't have to point you towards those. But I do have a blog where I have show notes. I also put them on Ravelry in the episode thread with links to everything I talk about. I have considered putting them on YouTube underneath the episode, and I'm really struggling with that. Partly because it means one more set of show notes, and even though I can copy and paste some things, other things I then have to put the links in for everything manually. I know that the blog is not visited very often, but what I like about it is that I can easily go back through it, and if I want to talk about something, I can usually find at the episode, if I want to refer back to something that I've talked about previously, I can usually find the episode pretty easily by just going to the blog and looking through the year. Or another thing is I'll look to see if I've used that episode title before, because I have sort of almost done that before and thought, did I call this one this before? And then I go back and look, it's like, yes, okay, new title. So give me some feedback. I suspect that I will at least be adding show notes to YouTube, because I do feel like that's probably where most of you are watching. So please let me know what you think. because obviously if they're not being looked at, there's no point doing up the blog, right? Okay, I didn't mean to insert that, but so be it. My next and last project I'm working on is the picnic blanket socks. This is the second pattern in Helen Stewart's Handmade Sock Society 4. Helen Stewart's also known as Curious Handmade. And yeah, these are kind of interesting. They have this little short or ruched area here on the leg, almost like ruffles. I wasn't quite sure if I would like that or not. I like the way they look in the picture. I wasn't sure if I'd like them in real life. So last week I did mention that I had gotten some new yarn from the Yarn Therapist as part of a collection from Knit Social. And the colorway was Forest Fairy. It's a merino nylon base. And in the skein, there was green with kind of a yellowy green and some pale pink, and it just reminded me of like a meadow full of flowers. And it also came with just a off-white mini skein for heels and toes, and I thought kind of reminded me of, a white picnic blanket that you would spread out over it. I thought it would fit the theme of the picnic blanket socks really well. So it was interesting because when I wound it up, I realized that all the pink was all in the middle of the skein. So I wasn't quite sure how to go about things. So what I ended up doing is winding off half of the yarn, and then I started knitting from the I wound off half of the yarn, but I did not cut the yarn. And so I started knitting with sort of the beginning of the beginning of this skein, and then the end of the skein is what it amounted to. And I could see that it was coming up, sort of the same. And I thought, oh, that's good, because then as I knit towards the center, then I'll be able to incorporate some pink. But as I was knitting and getting further and further down the leg, I thought, if I don't get to that pink very soon, I'm not going to really be able to see much pink, and it's the pink that I really like. So I decided to take out the socks, and then I thought I'll try and find like the middle of the skein and start with the pink instead. So what I ended up doing, oh, it was such a mess. So brilliant me, I decided to take the end from the beginning of the skein and the end from the end. Take the yarn from the beginning of the skein, take the yarn from the end of the skein. I put them together and I wound them on my ball winder. And I could see that the pink was going to sort of start more or less in the same area, close enough. So I thought, great. So I thought, I'll just start knitting with the yarn at the same time, and it was coming out of the skein at the same time, and I was kind of separating the strands as I went. And a little bit in, I thought, it'd be a lot easier if they were two separate balls. So I'm going to set up, I have two ball winders. I'm going to set up both my ball winders. I'm just going to kind of wind them, at the same time. Well, what a mistake, because that yarn just got so tangled and twisted, because every time I wound it, I was adding more twist into it. And so when I was trying to separate it, I was winding at different rates because my ball winders are different circumferences. And even though I was trying to control that, it was just getting awful. So that was doing that from the middle of the skein. Can't remember exactly. So I thought, well, maybe if I did it from the other end, it would be fine. So I took what I'd wound up off the ball winders, and then I started from the other end, and that got to be just as bad. So I called my husband into work to help me untangle this and wind this up. And so we each ended up with a ball of yarn, winding it by hand, and had yarn stretched out from the craft room here into the living room and around, and just it took forever. And then of course, to add to the problem of this, the yarns being twisted around each other and needing to be separated, was every so often they would twist together, and the bit of friction would have caused a little bit of felting, so then the yarns were stuck together in that place, and I'd have to go along and kind of break that little bit of yarn. I will never do that again. But what I did learn later on, because I liked the way the yarn knit up and liked the yarn so much, I went looking for the website, and it's actually on Etsy. I don't think it's, yeah, just look for the Yarn Therapist on Etsy. What I learned is she actually dyes up sock blanks, and then she rewinds them into skeins, and then I didn't see an instruction on here anywhere, but I saw a reference to it on the website that you do indeed start knit one sock from one end of the skein and one sock from the other. So certainly if I was to get more of this yarn, I would be coming at it with some education and experience behind me. But, you know, lessons learned. So anyway, let's just stop yakking about this yarn and let's show it to you. So here, whoops, all twisted. Here are my socks so far after all that. So what I really, really liked about this yarn is that it micro stripes so beautifully. And I am not a big fan of pooling and flashing and the stuff that sometimes happens with hand-dyed yarns. I like my colors to be kind of distributed nice and evenly and la 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 la. And when I started knitting with this and I saw how nicely it was knitting up, I knew that it could, or I was pretty sure that it would survive this area here, because what you end up doing is increasing, so you have twice as many stitches as you started out with, and then you decrease again after X number of rows. But because the color is so regular, I thought it did that quite nicely. And then it came back to striping again, and even around the heel flap and gusset, which sometimes is a problem area for, or problem if you're like me, for, you know, multicolored yarns. It, as you can see, also just continued to do these striping nicely around the gusset. The stripes are a little bit thinner, but it's certainly, to me, very pleasing to the eye. And then I think I mentioned already, it came with this just plain skein. Whoops, there goes my pencil. I think it was 20-gram skein. So the pattern does in fact have you do a, you can't see the heel on this picture, but you can see that the toe is a contrasting or complementary color. And so yeah, it's just turned out just right. So now I've done all the fancy stuff. It's just knit, knit, knit all the way to the toe. They've already been completely decreased for the gusset. So these are coming along really nicely, and I'm enjoying working on them. I definitely, knowing what I know now about the yarn, well, even before knowing what I know, I would recommend this yarn, but especially now knowing how it's intentionally dyed to knit up in micro stripes, and because it kind of has a gradient sort of effect to it, the way it's dyed in the skein. Yeah, I think it's just a really, really fun concept for dyeing yarn. Another thing that they have on their website, which is really intriguing for me, is they have sweater stripes for yolks of sweaters. So they offer it in DK and a worsted weight, and it's basically color blocks, but dyed in such a way that you have a smaller amount of your first color and more of your last color, and enough to do a yoke in a yoke sweater. And they have several examples of in the listings of sweaters that have been, or yokes that have been knit up using this technique. So I'm very intrigued. I do not need another sweater's worth of yarn at the moment. Remind me of that when, weeks from now I show you one. But I'm sorely tempted. One in particular, one colorway in particular that they had listed, they showed a yoke knit up in it, and it just was really striking because it had been done with color work. So they had taken this self-striping yoke yarn and then done color work with it, and it just looked just beautiful. But I do not need any more yarn. And speaking of, I've told you last week that there was more in the mail, and some of it has arrived. I still have 2 packages on their way. So this is all from Fibronymous, and I'm sorry it is rattling. I placed an order for a couple of reasons. One was one of the colorways that Lisa had shown on one of her recent podcast episodes. It's 90% knitting, if any of you are interested. I really liked. And then I also had a coupon and or a discount code, I should say, and a like a store credit waiting from my participation in the monthly makes program last year, and they were expiring at the end of March, so I really wanted to have a chance to use those. So I did place an order. So this is the skein that I really liked, that caught my eye. It was like a sort of in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day. Can you tell I like green? This is on the bedazzled base, and the colorway is All That Was Green and Glorious, which is a reference to The Hobbit, Lisa said. So I got that on the sparkly base because I just love sparkly socks. They always make me happy. So that's what I went for, but of course you have to A, make it worth the shipping, and B, you can never buy just one thing because there's too many things that are catch your eye. So this was I think part of her Throwback Thursdays, but I'm not positive. This colorway is Cake Pops. It just caught my eye, and this is dyed on a base that I haven't tried before called Snow Tweed Merino, and that is an 84% superwash merino, and then it's blended with 16% cotton nylon nep. So that just looked like way too much fun. So look forward to knitting that up too. And then I have been intrigued by this base, this twist base, for a long time, and it's a non-superwash wool. This is a worsted weight, I believe. It's 100% Peruvian Highland wool, non-superwash, 218 yards. Yeah, worsted, it says right on there. So you can see that there's this marled yarn that's interspersed with plain yarn, and if I'm remembering correctly, it all knits up in a stripe. It's a striped colorway, but then this part also forms stripes. You can see it's striped with the yellow here, the gray here, green here. So again, green, and I have a green jacket that's kind of sort of this color, a little bit different, maybe a little more yellowy than this, and it actually has gray on it like this does. So anyway, I thought this would make a good hat. I used to have a different hat that I would wear with it, and then the moths got to it. So I'm anxious to try this out with the hat. So yeah, I look forward to showing you how this looks knit up. I think it'll be fun. And then Lisa's carrying some notions now, and I keep thinking I really wanted a pair of scissors. I have a bag that it's not here right now, even though I'm showing you 2 pairs of socks. I have a bag that I normally just keep all my sock knitting stuff in. I always make sure there's some stitch markers, row counters, the sock ruler, and that's sort of my grab and go bag. So if I'm knitting on socks, I want to work on them in the car, I can just grab that bag and I have what I need. But I want a pair of scissors that I can put in there sort of permanently. I do have a pair of scissors that are in a little case, but they're in a case along with some cable needles and little crochet hooks, and I'm constantly taking them in and out of the bag, so this pair I can just leave in. And then I also got a pair that I'm going to keep with my cross stitch, sort of for the same reason that I'm never searching for scissors. So got those, and then she also carries some greeting cards from Sheepish Designs, and I decided to pick up a few of those. Usually when I send out a prize, I'll put a little card in with it, so I thought that'd be good for that. So this is Sheep Wreck. Squeeze Gently. Love this one. Lady Baba. And I have got to get my sheep together. So those are really fun. And I have another acquisition, which is not at all knitting related. I recently got well, I was watching, I'm so easily influenced. That's terrible. I was watching the Crazy Sock Lady podcast like a couple of days ago, and she was talking about she was going to be getting a product to review, and I think it was called diamond painting or diamond art or something, and it's a picture and you put little gemstones, fake gemstones to make the picture. And she said something about I had a choice of a paint by number or this, and I thought, paint by number, I used to love doing paint by number, like as a teenager. I thought, I wonder what's out there for paint by numbers these days. So that led me to an online search and led me to ordering a paint by number, and it came this morning. So whether or not I show you my progress will depend on how I do. It's a whole lot more complex than the paint by numbers I was doing as a teenager, but I'm going to give it a go. So this is the picture I chose, and I thought that if it doesn't turn out too badly, I could frame it and take it up, hang it up somewhere at the cabin, because the cabin is where all of our dubious artistic attempts end up. Like I have a wall hanging that I did when I was, I don't know, probably 7 or 8, that won first prize in a craft fair. We have all our early attempts at ceramics, like what we did in school. There's this ongoing joke because my younger sister has a ceramic horse, and my brother-in-law likes to tease about how it doesn't look like a horse at all, but that's another thing. So so it'll fit right in. If it doesn't turn out so great, it'll just be another thing. So here I got tons of paint and paint brushes, and then this is a little bit intimidating because my old paint by numbers were on like a board or something. I remember doing like a waterfall on a velvet backing, Yes, I'm showing my age. Um, this was actually on canvas, so it comes all rolled up. And then, my goodness, look at all the places where you have to put the paint. Like, this is not your 1970s paint by number. It does come with also a printed out, let's see if that was upside down or not. Oh, it's this way. It's like my contacts in, and my eyesight, my up close eyesight is not quite as good as it is with my glasses, but oh yeah, I can see it in the camera too. You can actually see the picture showing. So wish me luck. I am anxious to get started. I think if I have time, I'm going to lay it out this afternoon and start with my first color. I was looking at some tips online. So work from top to bottom, work dark to light, and if you're right-handed, work left to right. If you're left-handed, work right to left to avoid smudging. So how badly can it go, right? Be fun. As I said, it's been a rather uneventful week. Just usual kind of stuff going on. And as I said, we've been watching curling every night. That's the Brier that's on right now. That's the men's Canadian men's championship. So yesterday was the last of the pool play, so like everybody, and playoffs started today. So what we've been doing, there's always 2 or 3 games that they broadcast in a day. So we record them all, and then we look them over and decide which ones we'd like to watch, because we like some teams more than others and such. So we'll do that tonight, and then the playoffs are on the weekend. I am getting my hair cut Sunday, which I can't wait. It doesn't look so bad, honestly, on screen as I've been feeling like it has been. I feel like it's weighing me down, and I'm ready to get some more length cut off. I just feel it's driving me crazy, and it's heavy here. Anyway, so I'm anxious to do that. I felt like I should apologize for my hair at the beginning of the episode because it's been feeling like a bad hair week, but it's probably more just me than anyone else. You know how we are. We're always more critical of ourselves than others are. And then that, on a final note, brings me to something good. And we've had the best news. Yesterday, our provincial health officer eased restrictions a little bit, and we are now allowed to gather in groups of up to 10 people outside for the first time since sort of mid-November. And so it's very convenient because with our children and grandchildren and us, we equal exactly 10 people. And so tomorrow, sort of supper time, we are gathering at our daughter's backyard. So we'll all, keep our social distance, but we will all be together as a family for the first time in, I'm not even sure the last time we were all physically together. I was trying to figure it out, and I don't know when it was, but it's been way too long. So we are going to bring pizza in so everyone can have their own food. We're not going to be, sharing food and passing on potential germs and stuff. We'll have a meal together and sit outside as long as we can stand the cold. We'll make sure that we're all dressed for it. Thankfully, the weather is cooperating because the the weather is warmer, although it does cool down at night. So when the sun's out, it's actually quite pleasant when the wind's not blowing. But there's still snow on the mountains, so that's a good sign that it's, spring is coming, but it's not, winter's not completely over yet either. So we'll just make sure we dress really warmly. They do have a fire pit. I don't know if they'll bring it down to the lawn or not. And we'll all be so spaced out, not quite sure how effective it will be, but we're going to make it work however we can, because everyone's just really excited about being back together again, reuniting as a family. We've done it on, video calls. This is going to be so much better. So I'm very happy about that. Can you tell? And on that happy note, I'm going to say goodbye. So this is not too bad. Got this done pretty quickly today and only had to re-record the beginning like maybe 4 or 5 times, which for me is a record. So right now I'm being motivated by hunger. So I will wish you all well for the coming week. I am not going to record next week, and then I'm going to record early, like Tuesday or Wednesday, the week after. So watch for an episode then. And of course, I always have to put the disclaimer unless anything unforeseen happens. But hopefully everything will go smoothly and that I can indeed do that. So take care until then. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.